Hey you guys, welcome to the channel. So I have been for really almost a decade this year silently battling a toxic relationship with my father. And if you follow me on social media, last week on Friday was I put an end to our relationship. And so many people just gave me so much love and wanted to know what happened. There have been a few people around me that have been witness to things and said it was a long time overdue. I just wasn't ready, and I wanted to share it with you guys because there was so much that I thought I was the only one. When you're going through things, you think you're the only one, and to find out that I wasn't was so shocking. So I want to start from 2011 when we moved in with my father. The summer right before my senior year of high school, my mom took a job overseas, so we had to move back in with my father. And at the time, he was married to his third wife, and I wasn't too fond of her. I had tried to break them up, honestly, because I just did not like her. She played that like whole holier than thou Christian lady, and I'm just under the assumption if you have to like constantly say I'm a woman or a man of God, I'm this of God, like how much convincing do you have to do? Like if you talk about God, that's one thing, but if you have to continually in every conversation be like I'm a woman or a man of God, it's something about that that's off to me, because it should show through your actions and not you continually telling me. I knew it was for a facade. My Walita, which she's no longer alive, which is my dad's mom, she did not like her either, and I just wasn't too happy about moving in, but it was what it was. We didn't have anywhere to go. So it was just so much. His wife and I did not get along, the third wife, and we constantly argued because she was disrespectful to us. She didn't really want us to be there in the first place. We could not talk to my mom. If my mom would call us, and we were up front, we would have to go to our bedrooms in the back of the house because she didn't want to hear us talking to our mom on the phone. And my dad allowed her to have that and make, he went along with her shenanigans. There came a point in time I came home from school, and mind you, I am 18 and a senior in high school, and I went to check on my grandmother. So in the back of one wing of the house, it was my grandmother's room, my room, and my sister's room, and a bathroom. And so I checked on my grandmother before I went to school, multiple times during the evening when I was home. And my grandmother was like, Jessica, like, do you mind, when I'm checking on her, she's like, do you mind getting me some juice? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I was asking her how her day was, and did she like eat, and how was she doing. And she was, at that day, my stepmother was home with her, and she said that my stepmother didn't feed her. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she was like, I also had asked her to get me something, and she just told me she wasn't getting it, and that she was gonna let me just starve that day. And when I tell you, I lost it. I went up front, I was screaming, I was yelling, where's that bee at? I went off, the freak off. And it got so bad, me and her got into a physical altercation. My dad was screaming, my grandmother was screaming because she didn't want me, and she kept saying, Jessica, no, because she knows me. She's like, Jessica, no, don't say anything. And I was like, there's no way you're gonna mistreat an 80-something-year-old elderly woman. No way. It was a whole thing. So the next day, my sister came her call, and I'm getting ready to go to school. At this point, I'm driving. I have a car. Me and my sister would go to school. I'll drive us. And I'm walking up front, and all of a sudden, my dad was like, hey, come here. And just puts me in a headlock, and I'm fighting him. Like, me and him are in a physical fist fight. And my dad is like 400 pounds. He's a big guy. And he has me in his chokehold, so I'm like trying to get out of the chokehold, punching him. Like, we were in a physical brawl. My sister's screaming. My grandmother then comes out with her walker screaming because she's like, I can't believe that y'all one are fighting, and then you just, like, he did that to me. So it was just a horrible day. And I don't even know if I stayed the night that night at the house. I think I stayed with a friend. And then when I came back, my grandmother was just so upset, and it was just a whole thing. And so his wife would throw things around the house, yell. I mean, she was a tyrant. My sister can vouch. And people around me at that time knew. And then would mistreat my grandmother. And that was the point that when she mistreat my grandmother, that was the point I could never come back from with her. And I just didn't, my dad just sat there and allowed things to happen. And even after we told him, he did nothing about it. So that was the start of our relationship going downhill. Eventually, him and his wife got into a physical altercation one night, and his wife, it started with an argument, and she busted him at the bridge of his nose with a wooden hanger. The police were called. We had to have a statement with the police. My grandmother was upset. His nose was bust. I had to take him to the emergency room. Mind you, I'm 18 at the ER with my father because his wife just cracked his nose open. And eventually they wound up getting a divorce. So when they got a divorce, everything changed. My dad was just a happier person. He wasn't drinking as much. My dad has always been a functioning alcoholic since I can remember. I was like 8. I can remember as young as like 6 or 7, and my dad getting intoxicated, and I'm having to like take him, put him in the bed, or like put water on his face to wake him up because I was too small. And then he was also a Marlboro. No, he was a Newport guy, excuse me. Newports, the regular pack, the ones with the teal. I can smell, and still to this day, Olivia has always said, like, because of that trauma from my dad, I can smell somebody smoking weed or cigarettes from a mile away. And so he was always a drinker and a smoker since I don't even remember. And so he kind of cut back a little bit on drinking. He was able to be cool with my mom. We went on a family trip with my cousins to Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. Everything was cool. He was just a lighter person. He was apologetic about things that happened with that wife and was like, I want to work on things. I'll never let that happen again. X, Y, and Z. He meets this wife, which is wife number 4. My mom was wife number 2. And so this wife was okay, but she was, for a lack of a better terms, very, very rough around the edges. And she would constantly joke about how, you know, my dad had money and this, that, and the third, and her son never had a dad, and she was looking for that, and she found it in my dad. So my grandmother, she did treat my grandmother well, which I appreciated. At that time, I'm graduated, I'm in Birmingham, I'm out of the house, right? And so just things she was saying about him and his money and this, that, and the third, it just bothered me and my sister, but it just was what it was. So I'm like, as long as I'm not living there. But there was just telltale signs that something wasn't right. And so at this point, my grandmother has passed, and my dad now just has this wife. They wound up getting married, and she has a son. Excuse me. The son and us, and I say us, my sister, we've never had a close relationship. He's just into like tech and gaming and stuff like that, and he's over 18. We just never like the same things. So when you talk to him, it's like pulling teeth. You're like, how's your week going? Oh, it's good. And you're like, oh, okay, like how's nursing school? Good. It's just like, we need a little bit more. Like, we're trying to have a conversation and you're not talking. I don't know if that was nervousness or whatever. I know at one point my dad said that he felt like we didn't like him. We don't know you. So it's just like, how do we not like you? We don't know you. And when we're trying to get to know you, it's like pulling teeth. So my grandmother had also told me before she passed, she didn't like this wife because she felt like she was controlling. And so it just was like my grandmother and my mom will tell you, a saint and an angel on earth. The sweetest woman. I miss her so much in her conversations, and just an amazing woman. And so if she didn't like you, there was something wrong. So that was our relationship with her son. We didn't have one because he never really talked to us. And so what happened was my dad in 2019, which is when I was pregnant, had his birthday party. His birthday is August 25th. She decided to do like a weekend down in Destin/Panama City, which isn't far from Dothan where they live, and have like a trip. So she invited me, Olivia, and my sister. We drove down from Birmingham and we went, and the whole trip seemed to be about her, which my sister and Olivia can vouch for. The place that she picked was for her. Every itinerary, you know, she wanted for her. And then when we were there, mind you, we're at the beach. She's like, oh my gosh, can't get in the sun because like the heat just makes me get out in rashes and I hate being hot. Why did you come to the beach, sweetheart? Like, hello. We were like, what? So me and Olivia and my sister were just like, we're just gonna do our own thing, have our own fun. We're not gonna let anybody ruin our mood. I was also like, I want to say less than 2 months pregnant. So I'm just like, I'm pregnant, I'm chilling. And it was the first time that I was gonna tell my dad I was pregnant. So like, I'm chilling. So we get down there and it's just like everything's all about her. And we're like, I thought this was supposed to be about him. So one night in particular, he just said, I want to go to this one restaurant and sit out on the harbor. Like, that's all I really kind of wanted. The whole time she's like, well, we're gonna eat inside, we're gonna eat inside, I don't want to sit outside. And we're just like, are you being serious? Like, this is the one thing he asked for and you can't even do that. We wound up not sitting outside like he wanted. We sat inside, and his son, her son, invited some guy to come with us that we had never met. We didn't even know him, and the guy was cooler than her son. Like, we were sitting there talking to him or whatever, and my dad had an attitude during the dinner because it wasn't what he wanted, and he just continued to not be happy the entire trip. And I was like, it was bothering me, but I'm like, it's not the right time or place. So when we got back home, I called my dad and I was like, hey, like, we noticed some things during the trip, like you didn't get what you wanted, like were you happy? And he was like, oh, it's okay. And I was like, well, we heard y'all arguing and da 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 da. And he just excused her behavior. And I was like, I just don't think that that's cool. Like, it was your trip, your birthday, about you, not her. And he just excused her behavior. So apparently he got back to her on what I said, which I don't care. I'm not the type of person to say anything behind your back. I would say it to your face and say what I said. And she didn't like that. And so there was a discrepancy about, she didn't like what I said. And so therefore, I was trying to talk to her about it, to explain what bothered me, and she wasn't happy. So therefore they cut me off, and during my entire pregnancy they were not there. They did not. And I didn't really care that she wasn't there because I don't care for you. I cared about my dad. So he missed our gender reveal, he missed the baby shower, he missed everything. He was not there my entire pregnancy. He saw me when I was like less than I want to say I was 6 or 8 weeks pregnant, and I have a picture of him holding my stomach. That is it. That's the last time he saw me in person, and that is the only time that he's ever been around me while pregnant. So after I give birth, I'm like freshly postpartum, like we had just got home from the hospital, and he was like, you know, I want to know my grandchild and I want to, you know, rekindle this relationship. So we had a conversation, and his wife was just like rowdy, wanting to kind of get crazy, and we were like, yo, we're not on that type of time. This is about the baby. And I honestly hadn't processed my emotions, because one, I'm postpartum, and two, I'm still upset and angry that you missed everything my entire pregnancy. So I was not in a peaceful place with him because I was still very angry. And so me and his wife went back and forth on text messages, and I just told him, you know what, like, it's fine. like, whatever, I will put my differences aside so you can know your granddaughter. So they had a FaceTime relationship, and they would FaceTime to see her and X, Y, and Z, and it was just that. I didn't really talk to them for what. So we got on a friendlier level, and so his wife began to call me and say things about my dad, like, oh, can you call your dad and ask him if I can do this because he's not listening to me, or your dad is just being stubborn, can you call him? And I'm like, that's not my husband, that's not my place. I know my dad enough to know if he said no about something, he said no, and I'm not comfortable doing that. Calling me, complaining about my dad, their marriage, how unhappy she was and things like that, and I was uncomfortable. So I was just like, I called my dad and was like, hey, she keeps calling me about this kind of stuff, like, get your wife, because I got my own wife and my kid. Like, I'm not, when she calls me, it shouldn't be about you, it should be about the baby, not about anything else. So there was an issue, and so they were just like, you know, they got into it was a big thing. So comes of January 2021, and we get into an argument, and Nala had her first like steps or something like that, something of her first that she did. And I had a group chat with Olivia's mom and dad, her sister, my sister, and my mom. So it's 5 of them, and then they wanted to be separate. And it became like very, very tedious because everybody wanted to see pictures and videos of her daily, and I was having to send it to 2 different group chats. And so on this particular incident, Nala did something for the first time, I don't remember what it was, and I called the group chat with more people. They saw it, and then I called my dad and his wife after, and they were very pissed off that they missed it. And I was like, well, can we just do one group chat, because like this is getting to be too much, having to do everything separately, and can we have a conversation about it? So I asked them, could I put them in the group chat so everybody was in one chat? They said no. And then we were planning on taking Nala to Disney in May of last year for the first time, and they just got pissed off and was like, we're not going on a trip with your mom, you know, your mom and I are divorced people don't do that. And I was like, mature people do. Like, who said that they don't? Healed, mature people do. You guys got divorced over 20 something years ago. She's moved on, you've moved on, you had 2 wives since. Like, it's about Nala, not about you and my mom. And they just wanted everything to be separate. And my thing was, you want me and my sister to be this blended family with your wife and her son, but you can't be a blended family with my mom, whom you have kids with. My mom was like super cool. She was like, I don't mind, like everything. My mom was super just like chill. They want to come on the trip, cool, like I would love that. My mom was so down for the unification, and they just were not. And so I told them they were supposed to meet Nala for the first time about 2 weeks before her first birthday party. And the amount of hate and vitriol my dad has for my mom, I was concerned about how they would be in the same room for her first birthday. And that was before we decided it would be a COVID party and it would be virtual. And so I said, you know what, until we get everything on one accord and everybody is on the same page, I don't want you all, Olivia and I, to meet her in person yet. But I want you to still have the FaceTime relationship that you do with her and still call and talk to her. But just in person, we need to wait because there is too much going on from you guys that it's not healthy. Well, he took that and ran with it and said that I kept his grandbaby away from him and that I didn't want them to have a relationship and I took his grandchild from him. When clearly text messages state that that's not what I said. He read my text messages and this year has acknowledged that he read them, but he interpreted at that moment what he wanted, and so he cut our relationship off, including his relationship with his granddaughter. So to this day, He has never met his granddaughter, and since like that time, he's not talked to her either. So she does not know him or his wife. So about a week ago, let me read you the message. Now, mind you, I will post the picture. When we were going to Disney, we were passing through Dothan on the way down to Orlando, and we were gonna pass his house. I said to myself, there's no way that I feel comfortable not reaching out, even though we're not on speaking terms and he cut us off. That's not the right thing to do. I was sending pictures every Sunday to his phone of our daughter. No response. I'm texting updates, pictures, videos, nothing. So on the way down, I'm calling, he's not answering, nothing. I go to his front door with my daughter in my arms, and we're knocking. Now, mind you, his door is like literally, his bedroom door is by the front door. He hears me, peeks through the blinds, sees me and Nala, and does not open the door. I'm heartbroken. I'm crying. I'm just devastated. Did not open the door. Like, what type of hate do you have in your heart to see your granddaughter that was 1 year old and not open the door? After that, I continued to send pictures and video and beg him to be in her life. No response. For months. Finally, 1 month, he responded and said, it's going to be when I say we're ready. We're not ready to talk, and it's going to be when we're ready. Another time this year, we took Nala again to Disney. On the way down, we were passing by his house again, and I called and said, can we please stop by? We will make a special trip for you to see her. She's 2 at this point. Please. No. It don't work how it works for you. It's not on your time. It's when we say we're ready. At that point, I was done. He got no more pictures, videos. I cut our relationship. I stopped talking. I stopped communicating altogether. So I'm with my family in Mobile last weekend, and his wife says, good evening. As you know, our family relationship has been strained. God has spoken now, and it is time for us to mend our family. Therefore, I am having a surprise dinner on August 27th, 2 days after his birthday, for your father's 61st birthday. I would like Nala to attend to be the special guest of honor for her grandfather. If you accept this invitation, let me know. If not, you can let me know also. Thanks, Mrs. Kim Pena. She puts in the group chat, Olivia and my sister. I'm like, okay. That's weird. Like, I don't know who this is from. Why are you signing it with your name? But she's always done that. She wants to prove. She always says, I'm Mrs. Pena. Mrs. Pena. I'm the queen of Katy Court, which is the street they live on. Okay. Like, there's no competition, baby. I'm no longer at Pena. I'm a Pruitt. So, okay. So I responded. 10 minutes later, I said, hi, we would like for Nala to attend. Oh, not even 10 minutes later. So that was at 11:48. And I responded at 12:52. So an hour later, excuse me. Hi, we would like for Nala to attend, but are you and my father willing to have a conversation prior to? I think we need to have an understanding of what you all's version of mending means and what that looks like to give a definite answer. That is because I am not a fake person. So I was not comfortable, and even Olivia, we haven't spoken in over a year. We haven't seen you in 2 years, and you've never met our child. And we're just supposed to be like, hey, happy birthday, Nala, look, it's your grandfather. We don't know, like, she doesn't know you guys. We don't know you because a lot has changed in 2.5 years. So that fakery, we weren't willing to do. That was on Sunday. Monday goes by, and my sister and Olivia were like, dang, she's not responded. Okay, that's kind of weird. And I'm like, okay, maybe she's talking to my dad, whatever, I'll give her till tomorrow. Tuesday comes, still no answer. So that morning I wrote at 8:33, please let us know if a conversation can be had by Sunday so we can give you an answer and Olivia be able to take off that day. That was because Olivia was actually on shift at the fire department, and she would need to do a swap or to take off that day. So we needed to be able to plan. No response. At 1:28 p.m., she sends me a text outside of the group just to myself. Update, I am canceling the birthday dinner since I never got a response. May you and your family have a blessed life and wonderful future endeavors. Hope to reunite in heaven someday. And I sent it to Olivia and my sister, and they're like, what? Like, what? And I'm just like, what the freak? Like, so I sent her a screenshot, and I say, I responded twice. Anissa and Olivia received my messages as well. She's not responding, so I try and call her from my business phone, and it goes straight to voicemail, which lets me know she's blocked. So I called her from Olivia's phone. Olivia's phone number was blocked, so I call her from my personal phone number, and she answers, and she's like, hello. And I was like, hey, this is Jessica, like, what's going on? I got your message. And she's like, oh, I don't know, like, you never responded, so I canceled the party. And I was like, but I responded like an hour later. And I also sent you another message this morning. Olivia and Anissa got them. So I don't know whether she had me blocked or not. She said that, you know, she didn't get it. So she's like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know. Okay, y'all want to come? Okay, well, let me. Okay, and I told her, we need to have a conversation. She's like, well, let me call your dad. So I call my dad. My dad's not talked to me in over a year, and I've called him several times since, and he's not answered. He immediately answers, hello? Hey, mama. I'm like, hey, mama, like, we haven't talked. Okay. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, hi. And I was like, you know, your wife sent me this message this morning and I didn't appreciate it. And she was saying she canceled your birthday dinner. And he's like, oh yeah. One, he knew about the dinner already. Two, he was like, you know, oh, she said you didn't text her back. And I'm like, I did. And if it was that important for Nala to be there, she would have called me. So for her to say, like, I hope we reunite in heaven and all that, it was completely unnecessary. And like, it was for what? Like, what was her motive? He's like, well, okay, I didn't know that y'all want to come. Okay, so okay, well, we're gonna get to meet Nala. Oh my gosh. And I was like, well, before we even get there, we need to have a conversation, because you guys have done a lot of things that weren't true. You spread lies to your side of the family about me that weren't true, said that I kept you from her when I have all the text messages and have shown them, and now they know that that's not true. And so we need to have a conversation. So she calls me back, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, I didn't get your messages. We love, you know, and both of them said, we love her, we are obsessed with her, we want to be in her life. And I'm thinking, how you love her and obsessed with her? Like, you don't know her, you've never met her. I'm like, what? Like, are y'all crazy? But I'm like, okay, whatever. They're both like, yeah, we want to be in her life, we love her, we want to be grandparents. And so we'll call you later this week on Thursday to have a to see when time is best for y'all to have a conversation on Thursday, or on Friday or Saturday. Thursday comes, they don't reach out. Friday comes and they still don't reach out. So I call my dad that afternoon, and it's around like 11, 12. And I'm like, hey, I haven't heard from you, like, when it's best to talk for you guys. And he was like, well, now at this time I'm listening to Danny Lay's EP, and right before he starts talking, the song Dead to Me comes on. And I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm just like, oh, okay, this is a weird song at the time he's about to talk. That's weird, but okay. So as the song's playing, he says, well, after talking, we're not ready. We feel like that it's gonna be drama. You know, y'all saying that you didn't appreciate her text message is drama, and that you don't like Isaiah, which is her son. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, what does Isaiah have to do with this? This is about Nala. And just looking back, I realized, like, you just tolerated Kim and Isaiah. You never cared for him. And I'm like, you didn't even ask me how he was doing this week. When have I had the opportunity? Like, initially, this conversation, y'all reached out to me. I didn't have an opportunity to ask how he was doing. That's why I was asking to have a conversation. and he was going to be part of that. Well, my wife and my son won't be tolerated. They will be accepted and loved, and they will be treated like family. Okay. So when sitting, whether that's 6 months, in a year, in 5 years, or 10 years, we're going to let you know when we're ready. Okay. It doesn't work like that. I've come to your home. You open the blinds. Yeah, I saw your dumb A out there. Yeah, I saw your dumb A out there. I'm like, wow. The level of hate. And the fact that you think that you can come in and out of my life and my daughter whenever you feel like it because of these women that you're with doesn't work that way. So as much as I love you, I have to let you go, because you did it with me and my sister and put us behind every woman you were dating or married to. But you won't do that to my daughter. She doesn't deserve it. There's no love lost because she doesn't know you or your wife. And at this point, that might be best. I hope it works out with you and your wife. I said she will have the relationship that I have with your father, which is nothing. Your grandfather didn't have a relationship with his grandkids. You didn't have a relationship with your father. He didn't even go to his own father's funeral because they did not get along. He is his father. And what I have learned throughout this is that I should have trusted my gut. From the initial text message when she said God has spoken, no, God was my father, because nothing goes on in that house without my father saying to move. Something in my gut didn't sit right, but I said, for the sake of my daughter, I'm gonna put my pride aside, because I have no pride. It's about her. And the timing of when the song Dead to Me came on were all signs that something wasn't right, and that sometimes for your mental health and your peace, whether that's family, a loved one, anybody, friend, you have to cut them off because they are not healthy for you. And some people are so hurt that they are not willing to deal with their hurt, and so they have hatred in their heart, and they will die that way. He has not moved on from the divorce with my mom. My mom did things in their marriage that they're not proud of, but my mom has healed from it and moved on, because my mom knows her grandbaby. She knows Grammy. She talks to her grandmother 100 times a day. So my mom's not missing out. You are. Cut people off that are not good for your mental health. I was so upset. I immediately started screaming, wailing. I had 2 panic attacks, which I have never had in my entire life. The second one was so bad, I passed out. Olivia had to leave work several hours early because I almost had to go to the emergency room because I was so upset and could not believe at what they were doing. And what he said was, just like when you took her from us last year, yeah, you weren't ready, yeah, we gonna do it to you. So this was a get back game from him. And you didn't hurt me in the grand scheme of things, you hurt my child. You know, it hurt me because you were denying her of knowing you. But in the grand scheme of things, this affects her. You're putting an innocent child in things because you don't know how to move on. And so for me, I was done, like done. So I sent the text message to him and his wife and Olivia in a group chat. Per my conversation with Efren, which is my dad, moments ago, he said Kim and he have talked and aren't ready to be part of Nala's life. I let him know that we won't have people come in her life when they feel like it because time waits for no one, and that isn't fair to her. We've begged for 2 years and won't beg anymore. She won't know her Gigi, which is what his wife wanted to be called, or Waylo, which is what he wanted to be called, and at all, and we'll explain why and show her the messages and recordings so she hears it in her own words when she's of age. We were so hopeful for her to be able to share herself with both of you, and the time was now while she's little, but the door is now closed forevermore. It was now or never, and you chose never. The Pruitts wish your family well. I also said, if you have mail for Anissa, which is my sister, because she lives with us, it needs to be sent elsewhere, but not to our home again. Because prior to, her tags had to be renewed, and he sent mail to my house, and he's done so several times since she's lived with us, since January. So I took the weekend to just reflect, be with my family, and to process my emotions because I was devastated. But I now realize it was necessary. He will be forever miserable, and no wife will ever be able to be happy with him because he's not happy with himself, because he's still blaming my mom for things that were 20 plus years ago. My mom will know her grandchild and be in her life and love on her, and their relationship brings joy to my heart. But you don't hurt anybody but yourself. While you're trying to dig a grave for somebody else, the saying used to be, while you're digging one grave, dig two. You're digging the two for you and your wife, not for us. He'll retire in a few years. His routine, he comes home, he gets Bacardi and juice in his cup, or sometimes Coca-Cola, and he sits on the couch till he gets drunk and watches Family Feud or The Masked Singer. We're out here living our lives. I get to enjoy and experience my child every day. And like I told him on the phone, the sad part was she looks just like him. She looks like me, and I look like him. That's something that you miss out on, and my pain will be turned into purpose. And it is okay to put yourself first and not subject yourself to emotional abuse. That's what it is. When somebody continually hurts you and you are asking them to stop and putting other people before you, that is abuse, and you don't deserve it. So that is the story of me ending my relationship with my father. I always said I would never talk about this on camera, but you guys are part of me. This is a community and a safe space, and I know that this can help somebody, because so many people struggle with this abandonment from a parent, and it is one of the hardest things to go through. I want to say I love you so much to my family that have rallied around me, have seen everything, know everything, and most importantly, to my beautiful wife. I appreciate you being there, picking me up off the floor, supporting me, letting me cry, letting me scream, and being strong, because I know to see me have a panic attack and I'm not gonna cry, to see the look on her face when I was having a panic attack where I could not breathe and saying, I'm gonna have a heart attack, help me, and she's 30 minutes away, and for her to just leave work and come home and hold me and be there for me. I appreciate you so much for letting me sit in bed and cry and talk to God and to be silent and still with my feelings. I appreciate you so much. You mean the world to me. And I tell you and all the time, but I am so thankful that I have my girls. I love you, Olivia, so much. And I have also blocked his wife from Instagram. I don't know if she has a TikTok or if you're on here, but please stop stalking me on social media. During these 2 years, we did not speak and had a negative relationship. His wife unblocked and blocked me on and off, watching my social media, seeing what we had going on, and I never said a word. But I will no longer be silent. Leave my family and I alone. Leave my mom alone. Leave my sister alone. We want nothing to do with you. We are going to enjoy our life, and my daughter will not know love loss because she doesn't know you guys. It's your loss. Do you know how amazing she is? I realize that it is and my aunt said it best, it is a privilege to experience my daughter because she's one of a kind. So you guys just don't have that privilege. You're not part of the cool club. Hello? So when you get out of it and you realize the freedom that you feel, it's unmatched. Does it still hurt? Absolutely. Will it still hurt? Absolutely. But it's time to grieve the loss, and I will grieve as if he is no longer on this earth. If somebody were to ask me about my father, he has transitioned out of my life, and he can transition, he could pass away. I will not go to his service because I'm not fake. I'm not phony. We weren't good, so we weren't good during life. I'm not gonna be good during death. You know what I mean? I'm just not built that way. But it's time for me to live for me and my family. So much was affected, my marriage. So Olivia would want sometimes to have a drink, and I was so triggered by my father that the smell of alcohol would make me disgusted. Because I remember having to pick him up off the floor when he was drunk and take care of him when he was drunk as a child. I can be driving, and if my vents are open, I can smell somebody cars away, the smoke coming to my car. We can be somewhere, and I've been, and Olivia says I have a nose like a hound, especially for alcohol and cigarettes or weed. We have been like football field length away, and I'll say somebody's smoking, and like my eyes get big, and she's like, what? She's like, I don't smell that. And as we keep walking, the person a football field away is smoking, and she's like, how'd you smell that? It affected my marriage to have abandonment issues and to always feel defensive because I felt like, well, my dad and I don't have a good relationship. Like, that's my parent. Like, how am I going to have a healthy relationship with anybody else? It played in my self-worth and my self-esteem. I felt like I wasn't the best parent, even though I know that I'm just the most amazing mother. But I was so focused on like trying to beg my dad, and I was spending my energy in the wrong place. And so that chapter is closed. And I did tell him on the phone, if you see us at a family event, do not speak to my family. Nala has questions. I've saved every recording, every conversation, and every text message, because it's not going to be me telling her what happened. It's going to be from you guys. And so I just wanted to share that. Know that it is okay, and protect your peace at all costs, no matter who it is. Mother, father, brother, wife, husband, whatever. You are worthy to be surrounded by people that genuinely love you and want to be in your life. They don't want to be, let them walk. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.